Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Bikes or Death podcast. As always, my name is Patrick, and today I am not your host. Today we're mixing things up, and Kayla Hall is going to be a special fill-in guest host for the Bikes or Death podcast today. We are shaking things up. So a little bit of backstory. A couple months ago, Kayla sent me an email with a show idea to highlight the women of the Rockstar bikepacking race that takes place in Virginia. What she didn't know at the time when she reached out to me is that I'd been percolating an idea to open up the microphone and potentially showcase other voices in the bikepacking space. And when Kayla brought me this idea, she was obviously very passionate about it. She was familiar with all of the riders that were going to be on today's episode. She was obviously really excited and passionate about this idea. And so I thought it would be a good idea to turn the microphone over to the ladies today and let them take the Bikes or Death podcast for a spin. So today's going to be a little bit different. Kayla Hall is going to be your host. And on today's podcast, she has three great guests, Jenny, Abi, and Leila, all who participated in the Rockstar bikepacking race earlier this year. Not only did they participate, but they absolutely crushed it out there. When Kayla emailed me, she said all three of these women beat the current FKT this year. Abi took the overall win during the Grand Depart and the fastest known time, beating the previous fastest known time by 8 hours. And then 2 weeks later, Jenny went back after a DNF and bested that new FKT by another 2 hours. That was fascinating, as was the stick that got lodged into Leila's leg. A lot of good conversations on today's episode. I have to admit, it was kind of interesting just turning over the platform completely and then getting a chance to listen back to it. And I quite enjoyed it. Kayla did a fantastic job. Huge shout out and appreciation goes to Kayla for facilitating such an excellent conversation. And of course, to all of our guests on today's episode who contributed to the conversation. I really appreciate all y'all for coming on and talking about bikes with us. So that's what we have on today's episode. Let's get into it. But first, let's take a moment to thank the people that made today's episode possible, starting with our latest batch of patrons. So this week, we would like to thank Matthew Trenier and Paul Mendricks for signing up to be sustaining members of the Bikes or Death podcast. And if you would like to support this work, you can find out more over at patreon.com/Bikes or Death. And today's episode is also brought to you by a couple of events that Bikes or Death is putting on this year. If you've been noticing a little bit of lack in podcasting lately, partially that's because my laptop has been broken. My car is also broken, but that's been another fun misadventure. And other than that, these events are absolutely taking a lot of my bandwidth. I've got 4 events in the next 4 months, and things are happening. So if you'd like to come ride your damn bike with me and some of my best friends, we are going to be hosting a Ride Your Damn Bike Festival in Fayetteville, Arkansas this September 19th through the 21st. The Ride Your Damn Bike Festival is brand new for 2025 and an idea that Andrew Honorma and I have been percolating for years, and it's coming to fruition, and we're so excited. The Ride Your Damn Bike Festival is exactly what it sounds like. We invite you to ride your damn bike any damn way you want, and we have a lot of options to make that possible. For myself, I am going to be leading the bikepacking community overnighter alongside my friend Noel Battle of Bikepacking Roots. That's going to be a 2-day overnighter on the Devil's Den Loop. We have a 73 and an 83 mile option. Beginner friendly, lightly supported. The guys from Fat Tire Bike Shop are going to be riding with us and providing mechanical assistance. We'll also have ride leaders, ride sweepers, and a SAG vehicle if you need any help getting yourself or your gear to camp. So that's what I'm going to be doing for the Ride Your Damn Bike Festival. But in addition to that, we also have a ultra race going on called the Fayetteville Ultra Circuit that's brand new for this year. We have a dirt crit, and we're going to be having bike packing workshops and presentations along with a expo show on Friday. So to learn more about that and to register, you can find the link in the bio. Again, that is September 19th through the 21st of this year. But wait, there's more. That is a great shakeout ride or lead up to the Central Texas Showdown. The second race in the Texas Showdown series is going to take place from October 23rd to October 26th. If you've never ridden in the Texas Hill Country, I might be biased, but I'm here to tell you it is freaking amazing riding. I absolutely love this event. I love the route. This year, we have an extra special motivation at the Central Texas Showdown to not only highlight and bring awareness to the tragic flooding that took place over the July 4th holiday. Many of you will have heard about that, and the flooding incident happened directly on the route. So come out this year and not only use this as an opportunity to ride your damn bike in a beautiful part of the country, but use it as an opportunity to lift up those communities, bring some dollars, some hugs, some handshakes, or whatever it may be to the local communities. And through Central Texas Showdown this year, we are going to be donating a portion of the proceeds to the Texora Hill Country Relief Fund as a way to bring some restorative dollars back to the community as well. So both of those events are coming in hot and fast. And I'd love for you to join us at either of them or both of them. You know, we'd love to see you out there. So come ride your damn bike with us, and we'll see you in either Arkansas or Texas or both. All right. Ching, 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 ching. The bills have been paid, and now it is time to get to Kayla's chat with Abi, Jenny, and Leila. But first, let's have my friend Miles Arbor kick it off with the Bikes or Death theme song.
You load up your bike, you ride away from home. You could be with your friends or you could be alone. You ride for a day or maybe more. You just love being in the great outdoors. Everything you need is strapped to your bars, including that new pillow you got from Santa Claus. And then you think, oh shit, to yourself. You left that super lightweight tent on the living room shelf. Bikes or death. Bikes or death. Podcast.
Howdy, everyone.
Hello.
So just some housekeeping. We're going to do things different and fun today. Kayla is going to be your main host. It's an idea that I've been wanting to do for a long time to kind of get other perspectives and turn the platform over to other voices. So I was just going to kick things off and then turn it over to her. All right. Well, everybody, welcome to the Bikes or Death podcast. And today is a special episode of the podcast. And I'd like to welcome Kayla Hall to being a guest host of today's episode. Welcome, Kayla.
Thank you.
So, Kayla, first question for you, or first question goes to you. You emailed me with this idea to have this podcast episode a month ago. And I'm just curious what inspired you to want to share these stories?
So this event is a local bikepacking race, and we had record number women show up and record number finishers for the women's field. So I thought it would be really awesome to get our top 3 ladies who all beat the previous fastest known time. So if each one of them had finished individually on a different year, they would have all beat that prior time. So I thought that was a really exciting progression of this route. And the route really showcases our area. And so I think it's going to be interesting for people to hear about the route and its challenges. So that was, I think there's some good stories here, and I wanted to talk about it with the ladies.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, some really exciting stories. Now, did you have any idea that you would be hosting this episode whenever you reached out to me?
Not at first, but I think it makes sense. I know the area, and hopefully can speak to kind of the women's side of things. So yeah, it's going to be fun to host it.
Yeah, no,
Guest
I'm excited
host.
for you. This is an idea that I've been like percolating for years now. And honestly, like when you emailed me and we just got to talking about it and you sent me like your show outline and everything. And I'm like, man, this is the perfect opportunity to kind of step aside and let the ladies take the floor and have a little bit of fun with the platform. So yeah, I'm excited to hear the episode, but if y'all don't have anything else for me, I'm going to step aside and let y'all have some fun.
Thank you, Patrick.
All right. Well, I am looking forward to hearing the episode. And I guess with that, I'll bow out gracefully.
Sounds good.
All right. Bye, y'all.
Bye.
How do I leave? How do I leave this thing?
You're stuck.
Oh, here we go. Leave. I don't know how to leave. All right. Bye.
So I wanted to start just by everyone kind of introducing themselves. You guys know me, but the listeners will not. I'm Kayla. I'm in Roanoke. My twin sister has been on the Bikes or Death podcast a few times. Her name is Stephanie Hall. So I know that a lot of listeners are familiar with her. I am her twin sister. So I'm in Roanoke, Virginia, and I ride all kinds of bikes. I mostly like gravel endurance kind of rides. But really, if someone says, hey, you want to go for this ride, I'm usually pretty much down to give it a shot. So I'll have you go ahead and go around and introduce. We'll start with Abi. Go ahead and introduce yourself. Where you live right now? Where are you from? What type of riding do you enjoy most? And any like notable races, achievements. I want to hear you brag about yourself. So go ahead.
Well, my name is Abi Snyder, and home is Roanoke, Virginia, but I've actually been spending the last month kind of touring the country, mostly the Pacific Northwest, but I'm in Michigan at the moment. So a little bit of everywhere, living out of my car, working, riding bikes as one does. I primarily race mountain bikes, cross-country marathon, so like 60-ish mile races generally, and then also enduro, which is also big days, but you're only timed on the downhill. So it's kind of like party up and then huck yourself down the mountain as fast as you can go, which I really find pretty fun. And what was your other questions?
You hit them. You're good.
Perfect. Yeah, that's it.
Abi, any connection to bike packing before this event?
You're my connection to bike packing. Really you, and then another friend, Cameron, who has actually done Rockstar Trail before and has really been trying to convince me to try it for several years. Most notably by saying that he slept in a porta potty, which I said was not the way to get me to try bikepacking. But alas, here we are.
Here we are. All right, Jenny, you're up next.
Hi, my name's Jenny. I'm from Richmond, Virginia. Not very mountainous, but close enough to the mountains. For biking, I do a variety. I mostly off-road, gravel, mountain bike's the big thing. Cross, I do race cross. I do road ride. I'll do crits. I've done fixed gear crits. I've done BMX. I've done a little bit of everything. I'm not very seasoned in one thing. With the bike packing, I have started that probably 2018, 2017, 2018, mostly rail trails. Competitive bike packing, if you want to go there, was just recent, for not necessarily for competition reasons, but more for self challenges. I did Rockstar Gravel a year ago, straight through, and then I did Huracan, which is a 400-mile bike packing, hosted by what's his name, Samurai. Single Track Samurai in Florida this past February, which was really cool to get myself ready for the Rockstar Trail challenge that was challenged upon me about 2 years ago. I don't know the other questions or what else.
No, that's awesome. Any race results that you wanna brag about?
I guess not really. I like I said, I do a variety of things. Cross, I got into mostly because I wanted a bike made by a local bike maker, Stephen Wood, who owns Wood Bikes. And I was actually bikepacking Iron Mountain about 2 years ago with a group of friends. And that's, I'm sure you know where that is. It's close to Grayson Highlands. And on the car trip down there, this guy, his name's Wes, he owns Jack Sachs, and I were talking about racing single speed cross. Anyways, he hooked me up with Swood, who said the only way he would build the bike that I wanted is if I signed up to race cross, and which I did. And I did pretty well. I ended up going to nationals, learned quickly that 38 centimeter tires don't always measure 38, and had a interesting experience. Didn't place as well as I wanted to because I had to deflate my tires to about 10 psi. But that was my big thing. I just like the variety. I kind of have the FKT for Huracan's 400, though it's debatable because I didn't take some selfies and I missed like this tiny little loop, which is good to know, like when you're doing these things, to really pay attention to the rules. But either way, it's the experience that matters. I can't think of anything else off the top of my head.
I've the image that comes to mind with that race is the deep water crossings. He sends you through some wild stuff at Hurricane.
Oh yeah, it's magical. I'm totally going to go back and do it again. That was my second time doing it this year. I did it last year with a group of 4 guys. We all did it on single speed. That's the other. A lot of what I do is single speed, like the SM. I've done single speed. Cross, I do single speed. I race women's 1, 2, 3 cross on my single speed. I did do Huracan. Not on it was on my single speed bike, but I put a transmission on it. So it was a hardtail, just so I could get through the flats. But it was the second time going through. It's a crazy, beautiful, like place to go, especially in February when you live up north. The water crossing is a little sketchy. I did it at night alone this time, which was interesting. I think anybody that does these events realizes there's like this weird adrenaline high. I don't know, like some kind of hormonal high you get for the duration of the event where, you know, things are intimidating, but not necessarily scary. But yeah, that Huracan I highly recommend, if it not just for a great time. There's such a great group of people. It's very relaxed. You'll meet all sorts of people along the way. And kind of, it's not very competitive in sorts, but it's just a really good group, and it's pretty flat, a lot of sand, and it's not easy by any means.
Yeah, that's awesome. Very, very cool to hear. I'm so glad you mentioned the single speed efforts, because I think I first met you at an event and you were single speed and you had ridden to the event.
Was that Monster Cross? Yeah. That was actually a friend of mine here. That was the first race I ever did. There's a girl, Elise, that signed me up for it because on Strava, I kept taking a lot of their QOM. So they messaged me and said that they signed me up for this event. And I ended up winning it a couple of years in a row. I didn't do it this year, which was the first year. But yeah, it's another good local event.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Our last introduction.
Yeah, hey. Oh.
Go ahead, sorry.
No, my name is Leila. Well, I currently live in Brevard, North Carolina. What got me into riding? I mean, I was lucky enough during my second year of college to get like a job at a bike shop over the summer. And that's like sort of what enabled me to get into riding in the first place because I was able to, like use our rental bikes. And I don't know that I, probably ever would have found the love for it that I did without like that opportunity because it's such an intimidating sport to like even begin to get into. You look at the price of a bike and you're like, are you guys crazy? You afford these? But fast forward 7, 8 years, 9 years now, 9 years, I think, that I've been riding bikes. I actually started getting into it racing downhill. And that's like a long time ago, Leila. Racing downhill is not something that interests me anymore, mainly because I was always hurt. Not that I'm not always hurt now. I still am, but just in different ways. So yeah, my love really started in downhill enduro. I used to do a lot of racing in that, especially when I was in college. I did like some XC racing in college and really just didn't like it. Like both of the other ladies on this podcast right now, like kudos to you guys. Racing for me, I got really into the National Ultra Endurance Series. And I've gotten like first place at Cohutta Cat 100, second place at Shenandoah Mountain 100, like fourth place at Mohican.
Mohican, yeah. So
I like was really into like the 100-mile mountain bike events, and for some reason those just weren't enough for me. So I just like started pushing the limits on like my day rides. I built up my first gravel bike a couple years ago. And I feel like that really opened up like a whole nother world of just like being able to go on these like long, crazy adventures through the mountains with my friends. I have a road bike. It doesn't see a lot of use. Just where I live, a lot of routes just aren't possible on a road ride or on a road bike. And then like mountain biking is still like my one true love. When I like think about doing bike pack races that aren't like mountain bike specific, I'm like, gosh, would I be so bored? And then, yeah, so I've done Rockstar twice now. The first year was also my first time bike packing. I think that Rockstar has some weird like beginner's luck, like magic to that race. The first time I did Rockstar was my first time bike packing in 2023. And I also was the female winner. And then I got a wild hair just to like keep pushing it. I've started and not finished Tour of Northern Georgia. I've also started and not finished Colorado Trail, and both of those trails, I'm just like, I have to go back. I have to finish them. I have to do it again. This year, I was able to go out and do like this really long tour all the way across North Carolina, which like ended up being like 750 miles in 6 days. And it was super cool to like start where I live in the mountains and just like obviously I wasn't coasting downhill the whole time, but it was nice and like relaxing and like really fun. And then Rockstar happened, and we'll get into that probably later in this podcast. But since Rockstar and now I actually was able to get out to Scotland and do Highland Trail 550, which like, wow, what an amazing mountain bike race. 10 out of 10, maybe an 11 out of 10. But yeah.
That's incredible to hear. That one looked super challenging, but also super rewarding and so cool to do one overseas. And, had you been to Scotland before or no?
I had never been out of the United States before. So
that's very exciting. That's awesome. What was your time out there? How long did the Highland 550, how long did that race, like time-wise?
It took me 7 days and 4 hours. Weather was like notoriously, they called it the worst weather year of the race. There's like a very famous river crossing in that race. And when I crossed it, it was about waist deep. But then it like downpoured right after I crossed it for like a half of a day. And then all the riders behind me actually got stuck behind the river crossing for 2 days. They had to like camp and wait for it to go down because it was like too deep to cross. One girl actually like crashed during the race and lost her bike in a river, and they found it downstream like a day and a half later, like a mile downstream. So like conditions are crazy hard. There was one day that I just like kind of threw in the towel, and I was like, I'm so cold, I'm so wet, I've been like being pelted. I was like being pelted in the face by hail, and I was like, I have to like pedal. So I pedaled 20 miles off route just to like find a place to stay, and woke up at like 3. So that was at like 10 a.m. So I like basically lost 24 hours just like hiding away from the rain. Hindsight is 2020, you know. I didn't finish the route as fast as I had hoped or wanted, but like still finished, and that's what really mattered to me out there. And ended up like, instead of pedaling through like hail and rain all day on the coast of Scotland, I like got this like beautiful sunny day all day where I got to like really enjoy all these like coastal towns. So it was really a practice of me like telling myself, hey, Leila, like your shin still hurts from Rockstar. Like it's still an open wound on your leg. Relax, like enjoy the fact that like you're biking for the first time ever outside of the United States. And like the goal is to finish, like, and like not to be fast, which is always like hard for me. But yeah, I could talk a lot about that race and that trail and that experience just because it's the one that's most recent on my mind. But I will hand it back over to you. So.
Yeah, I really love that mental space that you just talked about, because I know when I've gone out for a lot of these events, it really is always finish first is always the goal, right? Things happen, and you know sometimes you don't make that goal, but for me personally, you know, it can be hard to pause for a long amount of time for whatever reason, right? But then, you know, we're out there keeping ourselves as safe as possible and finishing, and that's something I really value, and it's a good practice, I think. So I want to take a step back, and I just want to mention some stats. So I talked with Rob, who is our route extraordinaire builder for this event. So this route is 270 miles for the Rockstar, with right with GPS, I think says 35,000 feet of climbing, but more like 41,000 feet of climbing. And it's 70% single track. And Rob let me know that the first 4 years that Rockstar happened, of those first 4 years, 3 of them, there was not even a single female that attempted the route. This year, we had 24 riders line up for the event. 13 of those riders finished. And of the 13 who finished, 6 of them were female. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
So I make up one of the percentages that did not finish, because that happens. But just having 6 females finish is amazing for a route like this. I want to hear what drew you to the route and why you wanted to go out and do it. I mean, Leila, you already mentioned you had done it before, so maybe why did you come back? You knew what.
That's a great question.
You knew exactly what you're in for, which I could see being really helpful for some of the sections, or maybe a little bit, you know, makes you dread them a little bit more. It could go both ways, I think. And then when you were thinking about this route, like, did you have a time goal in mind? Jenny, I know that you had started with the Grand Depart and did not finish on that round, but then had come back about 2 weeks later. You can correct me if I'm a little off on that timeline, and did finish. And then we're going to go back to the stats here. So for the Grand Depart, Abi had the first place finish overall at 58 hours, 45 minutes. So a little under 9 hours faster than the previous FKT. And then Jenny had gone back out And on her ITT, took the FKT at 56 hours and 4 minutes. So 2 hours and 41 minutes faster. So just some stats for the listeners. So just circling back, what interested you in the route, and did you have a time goal in mind? And we can start with Jenny.
Oh, hey. The route, it's a little long story, but it started as a challenge the year before. There's a local female racer named Danelle Grant. And we were hanging out, her and Francine, who is another local Richmond mountain bike racer, were talking about it. They thought I should do the trail route. I had never straight through bike packed before. I've always carried stuff and enjoyed it. That was kind of and it's still my thing. Like I have something coming up in 3 weeks. That I like. And the reason I wanted to do this one straight through with a goal was I know how hard it is to carry a fully loaded bike up and down mountains. And I did not want to do that for 270 miles and 40,000 feet of elevation. So I took some time, did a lot of rides. But my goal was 48 hours, which I did not get. But now I do believe it is attainable.
So you see yourself going out and giving it another shot at some point?
Oh, yeah, totally. I could do it every weekend if it wasn't so hot and the hills weren't so big. I mean, I could live out there, honestly.
All right. I'll pass it to Abby.
So, like I said earlier, my friend Cameron did the Rockstar Trail route, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago, probably at this point, and had pretty much ever since been like, you need to do it, you need to do it, you need to do it. And generally my mindset is like, I don't actually want to be on my bike that long. Like 6 hours, I'm kind of over it. I've had fun. After that, I'm tired and I want to eat and sit in a river if it's hot. So this year though, I was coming off of shoulder surgery. And so like my other race goals were kind of like restructured a little bit. And Rob had been putting together this group that he called the Dirty Dozen, which was like 12 plus people who were all going to do Rockstar Trail supported. So it was like, we're going to take 4 days. Someone is going to like carry your stuff from like point to point. It'll be more relaxed. And I was like, that sounds totally like my version of doing this, because the route itself intrigued me because it's local. It's all the backcountry gems that I love. Like, it sounded awesome. Doing it and not sleeping was like absolutely like, I'm not interested whatsoever. And like Jenny said, I didn't want to carry a bunch of stuff on my bike. Like I wanted to have fun riding the trails, not like have a heavy bike that I couldn't really maneuver or be playful on. So fast forward to like 2 weeks before Rockstar, and Rob's group of 12 had dwindled to like 3, 4, I don't know. And I looked at the group and I was like, man, like, I feel like I will be riding a different pace than these people. And like, it just seems like that'll put me out there more days than I really want to be. Like, I was kind of thinking like 3 days sounded good, not 4. Also, I had foolishly perhaps scheduled myself for 2 cross-country marathon races the weekend following Rockstar. So
Good recovery.
I was also like, I was trying to figure out like, well, if I do it in 3 days, then I can have an extra day of recovery before I go and race 100K in Arcadia. You know, like I was doing this mental math. And so like literally like the Monday, 2 weeks before Rockstar, I called my friend Cameron while I was sitting and working. And I was like, Cameron, what would it take for me to do this self-supported? Because I've never bike packed before, ever. I don't own any gear. And he literally sat there on the phone and kind of talked me through it. I ended up borrowing his spot tracker and like a little feed bag. And my plan initially was like, well, I don't really want to carry a lot, so I'll just ride to Covington and get a hotel. And then I didn't really understand how long that would take me. And yeah, my plan was not a plan.
I mean, you put one thing down on paper and then you get out there and the trail, throws you a different timeline for sure. So you made it to Covington. At what time were you expecting to make it versus what time did you get there?
I mean, I think by time like we actually started Rockstar, like you and I had talked about like, oh, how long do you think it'll take us? And like, I feel like our estimates, like depending on the day, varied from anything to like 13 to 30 hours. Like, neither of us had any idea. I was kind of like, in the end, like when I started, I was like, well, I guess we're just gonna see what happens, and like kind of approached it with that like very like I don't even know if I can ride that long mindset. I literally had like four different people who had said, we're going to keep our ringers on all night. Call us. We'll come pick you up from wherever. And I was like, I probably won't even make it to Covington. Like, legitimately, I was like, I'm going to ride till I'm tired or my shoulder hurts or I'm over it and not having fun. And then I'm going to get a ride home. That was by the morning of the start. That was my plan. So I honestly didn't even go into it with any kind of like expectation. I think I made it to Covington and it was like, I don't know, like 2 p.m. or something the next day. So that I guess it would be Sunday, maybe? Question mark. So I made it to like Covington at like 2 p.m. and then I was like, well, it's the middle of the day. I don't really want to like get a hotel now. And I just took a bunch of like painkillers for my knee and they like kicked in and I feel okay. So I guess I should just keep going. Um, and that was kind of, well, I guess I'm going to keep riding and here we are. And that's kind of how I like, yeah, did not get a hotel and kept riding my bicycle.
I have a group of friends that call Covington the Covington Vortex because Rockstar goes through it and Trans Virginia goes through it. And if you get a hotel, you know, sometimes it's the middle of the day, but you end up getting stuck there for some time. So that's awesome that you looked at your knee and took ibuprofen and said, let's keep going. Nothing but open trail out there. All right, we'll pass it on to Leila. So just to, you know, refresh our memories, what interested you in doing the route again, since this is your second time, and if you had a time goal in mind, or what you were kind of thinking there?
Yeah. So the first time I did Rockstar, I was wearing like S-Works carbon shoes. Crazy choice looking back on it. The route so I was like I was living in Blacksburg when the route kind of started to become a idea was being formulated. My parents, you know, I grew up around Harrisonburg area. My parents still live there. And, you know, then I went and I did school in Blacksburg. So all those trails are like the trails that I kind of learned to ride on. I have like a real emotional connection, you know, Virginia backcountry. It's my favorite. So I wanted to come back because I was like, man, I know a lot more about like bike packing, you know, maybe wear shoes that you can hike in was one thing. So I was excited to do it with like a little more experience under my belt and just like, you know, kind of like Jenny said, I would do that route. Probably not every weekend because that's wild. But I would do it a couple times a year. I really like it. You know, there are times when I try to talk my friends and I'm like, come on, let's just like go backpack or bike pack and do it slow and like have a good time. Those trails are so fun. You're gonna love it. So yeah, I mean, I'll be back to that route. I love it. It's my home trails. I get to, you know, stay the night before with my best friends from high school because they live half a mile from the start. And then I don't get to finish where I live anymore, but I still get to ride all the trails that I love. Oh, and a time goal. Faster than I had the time before. It's my only goal.
And did you meet that goal?
Yeah, by a lot.
Nice.
By like 30 hours.
That is wild. So your previous time was close to 4 days or 3 days?
My previous time was like 3.5.
3.5.
Maybe more than 3.5, like 3. I don't remember.
Approximately. Fine.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, I'm going to reach out on a limb here and say that you know the trails better than, or the best of the group.
No, Abby probably knows them pretty well too.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. But like you said, you kind of grew up on them and Do you have a favorite section of the trail?
Oh, geez. Well, actually, when Abby talked about it, I've actually done Rockstar 3 times, but the first time I did it was like that full supported party mode with Rob kind of thing. So
Oh,
that was
that's
my first time.
awesome.
Yeah.
I think that would be a really fun way to see the route with like a little bit less pressure in terms of, having anything on your bike or, if you had an issue that you could amend at the end of the day or something like that.
Yeah, I've been riding bikes for like less than 3 years at that point. It was totally crazy that I was like, yeah, I can do that. And definitely having people carry my stuff was the only reason I thought I could do that. I didn't even know what bike packing was. My favorite part, geez, that's a hard question.
I think before you had mentioned Dow's Draft as a single track section, right before West Augusta. And gosh, that downhill is there's a lot of fun sections, right? But that section has like a certain flow to it that not all of the trail has. But anyways, yeah, there's a lot of really, really fun
Yeah,
parts.
I mean, I love Dalles as a day ride or part of that route. I would say though, like probably my favorite section in general is just like that first drop down towards Dalfit, and then you climb up. Like the whole like
That's
Dalfit.
not for Mountain, but what is the one after that? I'm sitting.
Hoop hole? Like
what
after
is it?
Covington? Hoop hole after Covington?
No, not Hoop Hole, but you have Four Mountain, and Four Mountain is what takes you into Covington, right? But to take you into Dalfat, it was that other downhill. What is it? Hot Springs, the Warm Springs, right? Is that what's the name of that? That one, yeah.
I
that
would say
middle
the
area.
section, like the section from the airport to like right when you start climbing up Four Mountain. I like the whole Dalfit section. I love Dalfit State Park though, and I love their trails. And I love that section. It just feels like, I mean, I love the sections when you feel like you're out in the middle of nowhere, but like that's such a cool section because you're like, man, I'm halfway and like I'm next to this cool lake and I'm gonna stop and I'm gonna get food at this restaurant if you get there at the right time. And like I didn't, but you have the option to take a shower if you want. I don't know. That whole section and those trails and just like the atmosphere of that section is like probably my favorite. I don't know. That's a hard question. I love Carvin's Cove. I love North Mountain. I love the
But
whole
nobody
thing.
else say.
Jenny, why don't you describe North Mountain for the listeners?
North Mountain was better than Price Mountain. North Mountain was not, there was a lot of steep pitches. It was a very big climb to get to the top. And then once you got there, it was a lot of rocky up and down. I hit it in the morning. So I was pretty fresh, although that was the first time I'd ever done it. For me, everything south of Roaring Run, like Roaring Run South, was all brand new. I'd never, besides Carbons and Mill, all of that I'd never touched before until the time I actually did the FKT, because during the original one, the person that was coming to get me met me at Roaring Run. Yeah, Price Mountain was a huge surprise because I felt like I did my research and I talked to a lot of people and nobody mentioned that one at all. North Mountain, I kept trying to get to ride throughout the winter, but the weather was just not accommodating. And I couldn't imagine trying to ride that when it was cold or wet with the elevation gain.
Yeah, we had kind of a rough winter wise because it was like, there was some ice and then, I found myself doing some weird rides this winter. So I definitely could understand having a hard time getting out to North Mountain. Anything you want to mention about that first attempt with the Grand Depart? Was it hard that you had to pull out? What influenced that decision?
Oh, that was the hardest thing I've ever done. Like, I do not finish something at all. That was not typical of me. And had there not been somebody who really cared about me, who got worried when they lost my tracker, they said my tracker stopped at the airport. So my friend Tony, who had just broken his pelvis the week before, was going to decided to drive up there, and he was going to stay in my truck while I finished. And I was having some nausea issues. I probably shouldn't have texted him that when I was on top of the SMT. But I did throw up, and I don't typically have stomach issues. I don't know if it was filtered water. I don't know. I work at a hospital, so I'm constantly around a lot of germs. When I went back the second time, I did not filter water once. I had a filter and I had tablets, but I did go to every store and used only water that was either from a faucet or bought at a store, because I didn't want that to happen again. Had Tony not come, I would have finished that day, but it was kind of this weird predicament that I hadn't been in before, because I have never had somebody try to care about me and want to come get me. And it was a sweet gesture, but there were some other things going on. And I couldn't really, I was enjoying the ride, but it was hard to find that happy place for parts of it, which happened. So it's kind of like where Leila was saying, not finishing something and how it plagues you. And I just remember being in the parking lot at Roaring Run and telling Tony, I'm going to regret this. I know I'm going to wake up tomorrow and totally regret this. And he's like, well, we haven't done anything. And it was just one of those conversations that it was just best that I tried another time. And 2 weeks later, it was time. Stay with the same people. The weather was almost identical. It rained in the morning on the departure. The overnight temps and the day temps were just about the same. So there wasn't much difference there. I did start 2 hours later because I didn't get to, both times, and I'm sure you all probably had this issue with, trying to fit so much stuff into your schedules. Didn't even get to Harrisonburg until late the night before. So it's never easy to sleep the night of. So I did start a little later because I didn't have to worry about a grand departure. Yeah.
Very nice. Yeah, I think that, we, at least I know me personally, put a lot of effort into going out to an event, right? Physically, emotionally. Abby, I commend you for just being if I quit, I quit, right? Because I feel like I latch onto a little bit more, and it can be really hard to pull the plug even when it's the right thing to do. And just being kind to yourself, and yeah, you went back out and crushed it. So, I think that really shows that you made the right call there. So that's really interesting to hear. I think we should move on to mechanical issues and bodily issues. So I'm gonna pass it to Leila, because I want to hear about injuries and crashes, because that was a real fear of mine that I didn't really see coming. I am not as skilled of a mountain biker as y'all, and I found myself, the more fatigued I got, the more afraid I was of crashing. And I didn't really have any big crashes or anything like that. It was more just I know I'm not handling my bike as well. And so I just want to hear about any injuries. Even the best mountain bikers in the world crash, right? So the more tired you are, it happens. Anyways, I'll pass it over to Leila.
Yeah, so I was rolling and I was so happy, and I was just out riding, and I was descending actually into Covington. Hadn't wrecked, had kept the bike upright. I felt like I was riding really smooth. But crazy things happened, and I was just rolling, and for those who are listening who don't really know, these trails aren't ridden a lot. There's a lot of leaf litter on them. There's sticks, there's rocks. You know, people come out, they clear the trails beforehand, but you're not picking up every limb. And I guess as I was descending and I was cooking, I was excited to get to Covington. I was really excited for Burger King. I guess my front wheel like hit a stick and it kind of like flipped up and it got caught up in my back wheel, which is actually why I stopped. I was like, oh crap, my wheel. I'm going to like break every single spoke if I don't stop, like slam the brakes on hard now. And then I like looked down and I just saw like a finger sized stick sticking out of my shin. And then I like immediately felt the pain and I was like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. And the guy who finished second, he was riding right behind me and he actually like saw the whole thing happen. And when I stopped and looked down and like saw a stick coming out of my shin, I immediately was like, oh my gosh, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? What do I do? And he was like really kind and stopped. And he was like, oh my gosh, do you need help? Can you walk? Like what's, and I was like, I don't know. Do I leave it in? Do I pull it out? Like, and I was just kind of in like that state where I was like, oh my gosh, what do I do? And I ended up just like deciding to pull it out. I think that the only reason it stopped is my shin bone. So luckily I was really close to Covington. I got into Covington and I like, it was like hard to bear weight on this leg. And I called my parents because they live in Harrisonburg. And I said, hey, mom, hey, dad, do you remember when I was a kid and I got that stick shoved into my shin? And they were like, yeah, we remember. And I was like, well, it happened again, like an inch below where it happened 20 years ago. And
That's so gnarly.
It's so bizarre. So I'm like, I don't know like how it's going to feel when I pedal. I don't know how it's going to feel when I walk. Like, I have some ibuprofen. I'm like, I'm going to take it, but like, will you guys keep your phones on? I'm going to like pedal until I don't like, you know, I don't feel good. And, you know, if it's really too painful, like I'm going to call you guys. And it was like 6 at that point. I probably spent like an hour in Covington trying to figure out if I was going to keep going. All of like the urgent cares were closed. So like I couldn't really, like I cleaned it out in the Burger King bathroom with soap and water and then just like found saran wrap at a gas station and some gauze and antibiotic ointment and like closed it up. And basically, and this is kind of opposite, I decided on route to like bring a sleeping pad and a sleeping bag. And when I called my parents, I was like, please don't worry. Like if I go on till midnight tonight and I decide I can't go on, like I will just get in my sleeping bag and I will be snug as a bug in a rug. And like, you guys don't have to worry about getting me until morning. Cause like, I will be fine. And that's actually like what ended up happening. The adrenaline like ended up wearing off and I just like couldn't keep walking up Price Mountain and I ended up sleeping. I don't know, like a mile from the top. I have no clue where I slept on Price Mountain. But yeah, I was just like that was when the pain was like really starting to get to me. I think that was like 6 or 7 hours after the stick went into my leg. And it was like every branch like hit my leg was just like, like that, you know, like that gasping pain. Well, that's what it was. Get off route. And my buddy Matt Clements was like there at the finish line and like we cleaned it out really well. And then I managed to get back down to where I live in North Carolina. And then my leg like swelled up like really bad. I ended up going to urgent care. There's like, they would not let me leave basically without getting x-ray because they were really worried that there was like still fragments in my leg, just like, or that like I'd fractured my shin bone just because of like how much swelling there was. I ended up on antibiotics for 2 weeks because it got severely infected. I was like sweating, thought I was going to pass out like 4 days later when I was like waiting for my prescription to get filled at CVS. And then, yeah, it was super painful for a few weeks. And literally just like 3 days ago, it just opened back up and started oozing and like popped. So I'm still dealing with it. It's crazy. There's like a huge lump on my shin now. Yeah, that was my injury. No mechanicals though. So there's that.
I did not know that this was a still ongoing saga because we are now at the end of June. Wow.
Yeah.
And you did the Highland 550 in the middle of that. Yeah.
Yeah, Highland 550 was a crazy choice after that. But anyway,
I'm glad you made it. I remember you telling me during the ride about it that you didn't know if you would find the resources. And when I saw you out there, I was super excited for you. That's super awesome. And I also want to say, Rob did tell me about your shin when I was telling him I was bailing, and it made me feel even worse. He was like, well, Leila's having some other kind of problems. And I'm like, great. That's wild.
I mean, I think the decision to pull the cord and like quit one of those races is harder than finishing, even when you feel terrible. Like, I like genuinely believe the only reason I finished was because I knew I had support like all up and down the trail that could get me at any time if like things got really, really dicey with my leg.
Yeah, and that I couldn't imagine walking up Price Mountain injured. That it is an experience. And the guy's name is Michael.
Michael.
Yeah.
Well, he offered to pull the stick out of my leg for me. And I said, wait, I ought to take a picture first.
I love that.
And I pulled it out myself.
Is there anything that you learned from that experience or that, injury, or anything that you would do differently from that time?
I mean, luckily my buddy Daniel, who like got me into bike packing, has been relentless. He's like, you carry enough, you can add a first aid kit. So I was like really happy to have Neosporin. But all I had was like Band-Aids. That wasn't enough. So just like carrying something extra, because like especially like something that I can use, like put pressure on it, because it didn't stop bleeding until like the next day. So just like also probably just like not being so hard-headed, and like maybe looking back on it, I should have probably not finished and like immediately went and got a tetanus shot and got on antibiotics, but like
your adrenaline and stuff's so high. And when I went back the second time, I have leg warmers, arm warmers, and I kept my leg warmers around up to my knees, I think, the whole time, because like you said, it's all primitive trail. It's maintained, but it's not like bike park trail. So there's rocks and stuff all over the place. And I still, not anything like you, but still have bruises on my left shin from rocks hitting up. And I thought about you a lot and what happened, and just thought that was incredible that you kept going and finished, and was not surprised that you ended up on antibiotics. Still incredible.
Well, thank you.
Abby, any mechanicals on your front?
Yeah. So my dropper post stopped working up by the airport. And I thought, I was like, oh, I was just really negligent and didn't check the battery in the lever, because I run an electronic dropper post and I had plenty of spare like batteries for my dropper and derailleur, but didn't have any of the little coin cell batteries that go in the levers themselves. And I was like, well, the battery on the dropper post itself is fine, but it's not doing anything when I press the lever. The lever battery must be dead. And I felt really dumb for not checking that, because like I've run electronic stuff for like years and years and years. I know better. So I was like, well, it's fine. I'll just ride it, and then maybe I can find a battery at the store in Douthit, which they were open when I got there. Well, I hid in the bathroom to try and warm up prior to go to the store. So by the time I attempted to warm up in the bathroom and went to the store, they were open, but they didn't have any batteries. So then I was like, well, I'll ride it to Covington. and maybe I can find some batteries there, which I did eventually do. And I got a new battery and I put it in and it still didn't work. Which initially I was like, oh, well, if I can't get my dropper working, then I'm going to quit because I know I don't want to, like, I'm just not having as much fun if I can't descend with my dropper down. I can't go as fast. And again, my whole vibe was like, I kind of just want to have fun mountain biking and enjoy the downhills. Like, that's my favorite part of mountain biking is going downhill. And so I was kind of disappointed that, like, without the dropper working, that was like impeding that a little bit. But then again, like in Covington, I was like, well, I guess I'll keep pedaling. And fast forward, spoiler alert, I took the bike to the shop afterwards and one of the mechanics took the battery out of the lever and put it back in and repaired it, and it worked fine. I should have just tried to repair it. Apparently it had been dead long enough that it had lost like the Bluetooth connection memory. And it would have been a simple fix and I would have been fine. But apparently, I don't know. I'd never had that happen before where it came unpaired and I didn't even think about it. And so, yeah, I rode the second half without a dropper, which was not really a severe mechanical. It was just disappointing.
Yeah, I could definitely. Sorry. Go ahead, Jenny.
Oh, and I was going to say, it's hard to think when you're in those situations as well, because you've been up for, 40 hours, limited sleep, like to troubleshoot, like those solutions don't come very quickly. Now, I'll also say I offered Abby a battery, but she wanted to play by the rules and did not take my battery. And that was very good of her, but I didn't realize that was a rule.
Yeah, that's very good on her to stick with the self-supported mindset there. Yeah, that's awesome. I would love to hear, I think one thing that it can be intimidating coming into bikepacking as a female racer, at least I would say this personally, is, sometimes learning these mechanical skills can be hard. And so I'd love to hear about anyone's background, how they learned how to work on their bike, what kinds of things they, are really proud that they've been able to fix on their bike. So if anyone has any experiences that they want to speak about in regards to getting more comfortable in fixing things on their bike, and how they learned that, yeah, that'd be awesome.
I know how to do some like basic maintenance on my bike, but I don't know that many of those are like actual trailside fixes per se. And I tend to normally be a very much like minimalist rider. I think like 2 years ago, I wasn't even carrying like plugs on my bike, like for sealant repair or tubeless repair, which I'm proud to say I do not carry plugs, but Kayla and I debated for, I don't know, a week before Rockstar. I was like, I don't want to carry a tube. I never carry a tube. Like, why would I carry a tube? Like, if I can't plug it, I'm just going to be done. And I did carry a tube and I didn't have a flat, which is fortunate, but then wasn't carrying a tube at a race about a month ago and flatted multiple times and had to borrow tubes. So maybe I will now start carrying a tube. But I guess all that to say, like, what I have learned, it's been through like trial and error and just like asking questions and like kind of learning as I go. But I definitely don't consider myself like a proficient bike mechanic. And I feel like I would be limited more by the lack of tools that I carry, I think, than by skill.
Leila, I know that you repaired a spoke at Highland 550. Am I correct?
Well, the spoke was never repaired, but I did ride 250 plus miles of that race with a broken spoke.
Did you have to do anything with the spoke or?
Yeah, so I ended up breaking a spoke and it was I ask a lot about my equipment and I don't have a lot of money. So the wheels I was riding are at least 8 years old. I bought them used like 4 years ago. So I don't really know how old they are, but they have to be at least 8 years because that's when I-9 stopped making that wheel. Anyways, yeah, I was like pedaling uphill and just heard like this thing. And I was like, well, that didn't sound good. And I looked down and lo and behold, it was not good. My spoke had just like sheared in half. And, there are things I always carry during a bike packing race, and that is zip ties. And I didn't know I had it. I carry pliers as well, and I couldn't like spin my wheel without my tire hitting my frame. So I was like, well, this is actually not rideable right now. I think 30-ish miles from the nearest town, which is, I need to ride because that's at least 4 or 5 hours at the rate I've been moving, just because that's like the notoriously the slowest section in that race. But yeah, I ended up weirdly enough having like a spoke tool on my multi-tool after I had like failed trying to adjust my spokes with pliers that I was carrying. But I was also in the middle of nowhere, have YouTube, and I kind of just had to like think critically. I was like, okay, well, it's hitting my non-drive side, so probably the spokes that are laced into my hub that are pulling the wheel this way, I need to loosen, and the like spokes that, so like it was stressful. I never had to do wheel work like that before, but managed somehow. I also like worked in a bike shop. I wasn't a mechanic in the bike shop, but I feel like I did learn like skills like that just by listening. Well,
I think, yeah, I think that that's awesome to hear. That sounds very stressful, and, problem solving on the fly is such a good skill to have in life in general. Is there any advice that you would give to someone going out to do this route, in terms of preparation or things to do, things not to do? What kind of person would you recommend this route to? And we can start with Jenny.
Somebody who enjoys being outdoors, that does not want to have access to luxuries. I think I'm a little older than everyone here, and some people that I know don't understand, like outside of my bike friends, like my work and professional friends. It's a certain life choice. Because I'm 43, so I remember being back in my early 20s and just backpacking in the mountains, going up to Crozet and different trails through the Shenandoah. I don't remember going out as far as Harrisonburg as much, but a lot around like White Gap, the trails around the Blue Ridge Parkway, the Priest, everything around, St. Mary's Wilderness, and just going out there like every other weekend for 2 to 3 days by myself, no GPS. I didn't have a GPS. I didn't even have a computer GPS until probably 4 or 5 years ago. There was no Strava. There was no Instagram. Facebook might have been out when I don't think I joined that to 2010. So, but it wasn't like here and now where you can see other things and what people are doing. And I don't know, you didn't have access to look at maps, to follow a route. Like I followed blazes on trees and would hike. I didn't bike pack, but I would backpack and just set up camp, and I would make it back, a day or two later. And it was just different. And I've always enjoyed that kind of stuff. So it would have to be somebody that just doesn't, when they look to do a vacation, are not looking to do like a 5-day cruise, or something that's going to have a lot of, for me, it's a vacation, but for other people, it might be work or something else. So somebody who has a free, wild spirit, that likes an adventure, that likes to see new trail or new things. And even throughout the season, a lot of those trails, I'm, more familiar with the Harrisonburgs to Covington area, but throughout the seasons, the trails change. So somebody that has that sense of adventure, and I think with the technology advances that we have these days, like to do this stuff, not only do you see it more on social media, but you also have, like I said, the GPS, the Map My Rides, all the different electronics, and the, like Leila was saying, you can call somebody and know that you can get somebody pretty soon, not to mention they have the spot trackers. There's a little bit of a safety net, although there is a lot of wild out there, more so than it was even 10 years ago. So that's the kind. I mean, there are other bike packing things, like I said when I started out, the GAP, the CO, New River, which is by you all in Roanoke. There's a few out in West Virginia that, they're shorter. You can get to towns, and it's a good way to start. But just like everybody else here, especially Leila, it's like you start somewhere and you just build and build, and you push that bar just a little higher each time.
I really like hearing about the changes, in the way that we ride, and I can only imagine seeing those changes in, bike computers and maps. And you're absolutely right. It's not super challenging anymore to put together a route. Trailforks is my best friend out there, because it allows you to see kind of a preview of where you're headed. I'm curious if you want to mention anything about any changes that you've seen as far as for women mountain biking. I know that I certainly feel like it's still in all the disciplines, right? Like gravel to mountain biking, I still feel like women percentage feels lower at times for the mountain biking, but I've also seen it grow. So I'd love to hear kind of from your perspective what you've seen over the years with the women mountain biking.
I think women mountain biking, even gravel road, all the disciplines, it goes back to some of what you said, were mentioning earlier about mechanicals, having the confidence if something goes wrong on your bike, how to fix it. And a lot of that comes with experience. It's hard for females to get into some of these sports where you have to be independent at times. You have to have confidence. You're going to be riding with men as well as females. Men tend to be stronger. They can be more mechanically inclined. But for a woman, you have to put yourself out there. Richmond has an incredible women's cycling scene. It's very well, I don't know, it's incredible. There's Emily Monroe. It's actually her birthday tomorrow, and she's like the mother of just biking. I don't know if you've heard of Mountain Cat. She's the one who puts that on. She's in charge of RCC. She worked for Sportsbacker. She has Ramble Rides, which are weekly. She started that a couple years ago. These weekly women rides. There's Bryan Park crit races that her and Caddy, who's a professor at VCU, put together. Well, Bryan Park has been doing crit races for like 50 years, but they always had men's A and B. And about 2 to 3 years ago, they started this women's race. And I haven't done any this year. And I usually sign up for the season pass, but I've been too busy with work and I keep flaking and I feel really bad about it. But it's incredible to see the amount of younger women coming into it that just have all the, they have more opportunities. The bikes are nicer. Not sure if they're any more affordable than they were a couple of years ago, but there's more of an inclusion where a lot of people, even in Richmond, there's sometimes a little pushback, but overall, Richmond's not really great for biking. We've had this joke, but it's got an incredible bike scene. A lot of the better biking is out west in the mountains. In cross racing, the women's fields are typically smaller. Mountain bike racing, like you said, they're not at the same size as men, but it's also a niche field. And I'm sure Abby knows a lot more about the racing aspect of it. but there's also a lot of room for women to bounce in between different bike disciplines, modalities. I don't know what you call them, but you can go from road to gravel to mountain bike pretty easily because it's competitive and not as competitive. And I don't know if men do the same. Even in women's professional cycling, you see big leaps and bounds recently where they have the Tour de Femmes. They were doing, what is the one that's in Copenhagen right now, or just like last week. And they're introducing more women specific, like UCI sports. And it does help. And it's awesome. Like there's Maddie Fisher, who's out in Crozet, but comes to Richmond. And just to see people that are like, entering the field at this great young age that have these opportunities, it's pretty cool. And I know Leila is like in that 20-year-old, and Abby too. It's just really awesome to see like it spread, to see more women get involved with things, to lift each other up, to support each other, to set this precedent in ways. Like once somebody sees, for example, us do Rockstar, then they can look at it and be like, well, shoot, they did it. What's holding me back from doing it? Like it kind of makes things more believable to that person.
Yeah, Jenny, when I talked to Patrick, I told him a huge reason why I wanted to talk about this year's Rockstar and the times that y'all put out is it's like riding a line. So sometimes you look at a line and you're like, there's no way I can ride it. But then you see your friend go over it and you're like, oh, actually, I think I can do that line. It's just seeing someone else achieve it. And then exactly like what you guys have done with this race is it kind of just pushes that bar just a little bit higher, a little bit faster, whatever it is. You see someone do something, you're like, actually, I can see that myself. I can do that myself. And I love that you mentioned Emily, of course, and the different levels. You kind of spelled out all these. You've got beginner women's rides all the way up to
advanced. Yeah, you can do. And there's so many times where I've gone mountain biking with people and like, yeah, you're talking about incredible women. There's Claire Sand. She works for Carytown, which is specialized. Incredible bike mechanic in Richmond, just about 30 years old, off-road mountain biker. And, we'll go riding together. And she, I know, is better than me, but she doesn't sometimes have the confidence. And she'll see me do something. And then right behind me, she'll do it for the first time. And I'm just using her as an example because I can see how incredible she is. But I've done that with other people where they just don't see it and they just, you follow a wheel and you realize like, oh, that's not as hard. Like a lot of mountain biking is mental, especially when you know the trail and you know that there's an obstacle coming back up that, is hard, or even worse, an obstacle that you've wrecked on or maybe have had issues with. But to see other people do it, it's especially women, it makes it, like possible.
Yeah, absolutely. Abby, I know that you were doing a scholarship this year for women. I would love to hear how that's going and how the team is.
Yeah, so I did like a small like women's mountain bike race scholarship at the start of the year where I basically offered 4 women the opportunity to do a race and have that race paid for. And then I am coaching those women in the lead up to that race. So providing just some like structured training guidelines for them. None of those races have happened yet. They were all like July and August and early September races. So kind of midsummer. But all 4 of the women they're full in on training. And it's been really cool to see like their commitment and their like consistency through the training, despite some pretty massive obstacles. One of the women got hit by a car this spring while riding her bicycle and had some pretty significant injuries. And, with clearance from her doctors and PT has like gotten right back into training, like as she's gotten back to recovery and is like super stoked and excited about it. And it's also been cool, like, two of the women jumped into like other races that weren't provided by the scholarship, but like they're like, oh, it's a local event, let me do it as like a practice. And it was their like first mountain bike or first gravel event ever. And just really cool to like see them show up, and according to them, just like having the scholarship like kind of gave them the confidence to do that, and then also realizing that there's other women out there trying these things for the first time. So I think it really just goes back to what Jenny said of like seeing other people, other women out there doing it, is so valuable. And I found this really interesting recently because I was out in Bellingham, Washington, and also like North Van and Squamish in British Columbia. And I looked around and I was like riding like super gnarly trails, and there's just a ton of women riding. Like, I think I saw more women riding than I saw dudes riding, which back on the East Coast, like never happens, especially on like the gnarly trails. Like, I mean, I was scared of pretty much every trail that I rode, and these women were like absolutely crushing it. And even just getting the opportunity to like ride with a few of them there and get to know them and like have them like lead me down these trails that I'd never seen before and that were like a little out of my comfort zone. It really was cool to be like, oh yeah, like there are other women out here doing this. And every single one that I've met, and this is like globally, like women in mountain bike want to see more women in mountain bike. And so it's not like
100%.
you might walk up to a race and feel intimidated because like, oh, this chick is so cool. She knows what she's doing. For example, Amy Morrison, who just won her 5th Enduro National Championship, like I might walk up to Amy at a race and be like, I could never ride like Amy, which is absolutely true. But like Amy is the coolest person alive and will totally like welcome you in, and she's mentoring young girls, and like she doesn't care that you're not as fast as her. Like we just care that you show up and you try the thing. And so I think sometimes like as women, we have this like imposter syndrome where we're like, oh, other people, like I don't ride this feature or whatever. Nobody really cares if you ride it or walk it as long as you're out there riding your bike. Like, just keep showing up.
Yeah, and it opens so many new doors. Like it gains confidence in people that in other aspects of their life. And I think that is unique to mountain biking. And I love my road bike friends and those friends, but there's something appreciative, I think, about the different skill sets involved. I don't know exactly what it is, but it's this wholesome kind of like community, like love feeling where you want to see more women. And kind of like you were saying, it seems like in localities where it grows, it spreads quickly. As more people are exposed to it and they see it, and it's just like anything else, the more you see it, the more practical it is, the more you're going to do it. So yeah, 100%.
Yeah, just to like speak about women in cycling and bike packing, I feel like a lot of times in just sports in general, men and women's, like there's like this idea like to be competitive, and like the people who you're competing against, like that's all they are, competitors. But it's such a different vibe in cycling, and then specifically bike packing. It's like I don't care if, for example, at Highland Trail, the girl who won finished in 4 days. Emma Beta, she's crazy. She's amazing. How she rides a bike is unfathomable to me. But like, she doesn't care that I finished 3 days behind her. She's like still, lives in New Zealand, is messaging me because, we met each other in Colorado Trail. And she's like, I'm so excited to see you're going to be in Scotland. Like, I can't wait to see you. So like, it's just that community of women that like, I hope continues to draw more women into the sport, just because like everyone is so welcoming. Like as intimidating as the sport is, I think like once you step your foot into it, you will find that like all the women are like who are good, who are just getting their foot in the water. Like they're all so stoked to see you there.
Yeah, could not be more true. My first event I attempted I didn't even finish, but I got lunch with the woman who won afterwards, and Lauren Brownlee was just like so nice to me. And I'm like, are you sure you know I didn't finish, right? Like, am I allowed to be in your presence? But I promise that, I do finish events. These are just the two that I didn't. But yeah, like it's the most, welcoming community, I feel like. And women that are doing this like want to see people get even better and even stronger. And I think in endurance and in bike pack racing, I've seen just so much celebration of, the female winner or whoever gets the new fastest known time. It's I don't know that it's like that for every single discipline of cycling, but I definitely feel it in bike packing, where if you are willing to be open and, ask questions and put yourself out there, like the women that are winning these events, like you're saying, are welcoming and want you to be there. Like they want you to come to the start line. That's so valuable.
And I think a big part of it is like the adventure that's in bike packing. So if you don't finish or you don't win, like you're still leaving there with a damn good time. Or even if you have a stick go through your shin, you still have a story, you have a memory, you met people along the way that you had these shared experiences with. And like even back to the days where I had backpack, I mean, there's so many people I remember meeting, and unfortunately we didn't have like Instagram and stuff. And it's like you'd just meet people and share these times together, stories, and you'd move on with your lives. But it's cool to be able to like reach out now and talk to other people about events and coordinate things to that nature, where you can meet up again or you can follow them and see what events they're doing. Maybe you're interested in doing that as well. I mean, there's a huge supportive community, and it's really incredible.
Jenny, I'm curious, what's the event in 3 weeks?
Next week I'm going to Davis, which I just saw that you're at, and then the Tour de Berg, which I think Leila should go to, or whoever else is that weekend. And then in 3 weeks, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Jess Conley. She is from Richmond as well. She races for Sweet Spot. She's a Cat 1 cross racer, but she also is an endurance cyclist. She did Rockstar with me. She's done Grusk. She bike packs. She's a teacher. So in the summer, she typically has one epic bike ride. She and I went to Cross Nationals together last year. So we spent some time together, but it's one of those, like, we're like bike friends. I don't know if we have ever hung out. Well, I went to one of her art showings, but we don't like talk unless we're on a bike. But I feel extremely honored because every year during her summer break, she's an English teacher for Richmond Inner City Schools, high school. She takes this one epic trip. But anyway, she planned an 700 miles around West Virginia. And I would have to look at the elevation again, but it's pretty big. A lot of the stuff that she does, she'll usually do half with somebody and then half alone. Like she did Pants last year, Pennsylvania north to south, with Emily Robbins, who I'm sure you're familiar with Dr. Robbins. Does, cross country, like gravel, epic stuff in other countries. They did Pants together, and then Jess finished at the end, which is is it Cumberland, and then biked back to Richmond by herself. She's gone all the way to Canada on a train and biked all the way to the GAP, met a group of friends, and then biked back to Richmond, which is huge. And then, like I said, this year she planned this route of, where is it? I have so many routes saved. And I know she just updated this one.
Yeah, West Virginia has some awesome riding. Like you said, I was just up there in Davis, working on connecting the Mon Forest towns. So there's, I want to say 10 towns. So Davis is one of them. And, connecting each town with some fun routes. And I'm sure whatever you guys ride will be great. There's such a good mix of things out there.
Yeah, she's, it's connects a lot of the rail trail. So it's a big loop that goes around West Virginia. I can't find it right now because I have too many things saved.
No worries.
But yeah, it'll be big and it'll take us like a week. Yeah, it's 700 miles, 45,000 feet of climbing. She called it Tour de West Virginia Rail Trails. And we're doing it in 3 weeks, I think, or 4 weeks. Yeah, it'll be fine. But we're not doing it competitively. It'll be for exploration on gravel bikes. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it and just detaching from the world for a week. No internet, no phone. I think that's another big draw to a lot of this stuff is, you put everything away and people can't really interrupt you unless you want them to. You're not really responsible for anybody but yourself for a lot of these, unless you're with a group, but it's kind of this freeing feeling where, and I think it really puts people in the now. It puts you centered. You have to be at a heightened awareness. And yeah, you're detached from everything.
Definitely. I love when I don't have service. It's such a gift to not have cell phone service.
Yeah. Do you ever, this is just an aside, do you ever get back to someone and say, sorry, I was out for a ride? And they were like, I texted you 3 days ago. And I was like, it was a long ride.
That reminds me, I need to text Cameron back. I never texted Cameron back. Leila, I want to just congratulate you for Highland 550. That I know I listened to something with Jenny Tuff and she DNF'd scratched her first time out there. And hearing a name like Jenny Tuff to say that she scratched a route that really puts it into perspective for that event. Do you have anything else on the calendar this year?
No, I don't even have a mountain bike working right now. So nothing on my calendar until I can get my affairs in order. But Jenny, I did think about Tour de Berg if I have a bike working by then.
You can borrow one of mine.
I think you're small.
I am. I'm small.
That would be tough. Yeah. But I appreciate it.
Put a 110 stem on it. No, I'm just kidding. Don't do that.
Well, one event, hopefully, to look out for. And this is just something that mostly my friend Daniel, who also lives in Brevard, who got me into bikepacking, he's been working on this route that we're kind of dubbing the resilience route. And it's a 650, 700-mile route through Western North Carolina. It would start and end in Brevard. It's like a hardtail route. There's single track mixed in, a lot of gravel. Him and I have spent like a lot of time out like scouting the route. And then Helene happened. For those who are listening who might not know, Helene was like a hurricane that hit us at the end of September. It caused really devastating flooding throughout our entire region. Entire roads washed away. Like there are still roads within 3 miles of my house, 6 months later that like are still falling into the river. But we're dubbing that right now the resilience ride. We're hoping to do like a small grand depart this September on the anniversary of the hurricane. So if it doesn't happen this year, that is probably because we just can't find ride arounds for roads that are still closed and like not even navigable. But hopefully that happens. If it does, that's on my calendar.
Yeah, thanks for mentioning that. That sounds like something I would definitely be interested in. And yeah, the damage from that hurricane was just unimaginable. You're much closer to it than I am, but certainly watching the news from Roanoke it's a hard one for sure. Abby, what does your year look like? What's next? This cross-country road trip?
Yeah, riding bikes because they're fun. Basically. Cross-country nationals, both like marathon and cross-country Olympic, are in Roanoke in 2 weeks. And I feel very unprepared for that, but am very excited to race all 3 events because they are in my hometown and that's just going to be really cool and fun. And then I feel like the other kind of big event on my calendar is I'm doing Downeyville this year, which is like legendary mountain bike, and doing the all mountain competition. So you race like a cross country course and a quote unquote downhill course, but you have to do it on the same bike and they weigh your bike both days. So like you can't even change tires. So kind of excited to fly out to California for that one in August. But yeah, those are kind of, I feel like those are kind of the two big ones for this year that I can think of. I'm sure there's more, but
That's
mostly
the highlights.
Yeah, those are the highlights. Mostly just riding bikes because they're fun.
Good luck in those races 2 weeks from now, Abby. I'll be cheering you on.
Dude, I'm so fatigued. I haven't had a rest day. Well, I've had one rest day in the past like 5 weeks. I've just been riding every trail. So TBD how that shakes out.
I understand that 100%, but you'll do
But it's
great.
worth it. Like, I've been cool places and there's epic trails. I don't want to miss out and like just sit around and take a rest day. Like, I'll deal with the fatigue later.
I get it. I say the same thing at home, and I've lived here for 3 years.
Yes. Yes.
So what are all the races at nationals that you're doing? You said
so it's all of like, they call it endurance mountain bike, but it's a cross country Olympic, cross country short track, and cross country marathon. The latter of which is the only one that I actually care about is cross country marathon, because that's a discipline that I actually race normally. The others are just literally because nationals happen to be in my hometown.
cool.
And is the marathon one the very last one you have to race? So you're just going to
It's
be...
actually first.
Okay, that's nice.
It is. Yeah. I mean, 60 miles at Carvin's Cove is going to be legendary, so it'd be great.
Cool. Do they do that for 2 years in a row?
I think we have the contract currently for 2 with potential to add more if it goes well, is what I've heard rumor of.
That's good. Do they have a big field signed up?
I have no idea. I literally haven't looked.
Yeah, you've been busy.
Yeah. Well, Enduro Nationals were this past weekend in Idaho, so that was kind of my like focus until I finished, and now my focus is on getting home, hopefully within the next week, and then I'll start looking at nationals for cross country.
And what made you drive across country for this one? Did you just have more time? And because you said you were flying out to California for the other thing.
Yeah, I don't have time to fly out or to drive out to California. This one, I looked at the cost of flights to Idaho and to rent a car and realized that I could drive for like the same amount or cheaper. And I was like, well, if I'm driving all the way to Idaho, I might as well stay out there. And this is the first year I've ever had a job where I can work remote. So I was like, I'm just going to live out of my car and work and go visit some friends out in the Pacific Northwest and ride bikes in places that I've never been before. And yeah, it's been really, really cool.
Sounds awesome.
Living the dream. That's what I call that.
That's really incredible.
All right. Well, I want to wrap it up. If you have any, I know we've mentioned some women run events, but if there's any that you have left out that you want to give a shout out to, you can go ahead and mention any events now.
Well, Gravista, but that's not until April. I know you're all about that one.
Okay. Yeah.
That's like the first thing that pops in my head. And,
Yeah. Well, and also it's not an event, but a women mountain biker does help run and owns, wow, I am now forgetting the name of it. The Gap in Georgia that's on TNGA in the middle point, Mulberry Gap. That's a cool spot to go ride. And women, there's it's like half women owned, and Kate's great and does a lot of work out there. So if you're ever in Georgia, Mulberry Gap.
Awesome. That's good to know about Mulberry Gap. Got it.
It's good mountain biking.
I think that is going to wrap things up. I want to thank each of you guys. I know you guys each inspire my own riding and your mountain biking skills. Each one of you are just really fantastic. And I think people listening, they might not picture you guys on a trail, but I know that I have seen what you guys can ride, and it's incredible. And it pushes the sport forward, especially for mountain biking for women. And I'm really happy that we got to talk and got to hear some of the background of the Rockstar Trail stories. And just thanks for hopping on and sharing your stories.
Thank you for having us.
Have a good evening.
You too. Bye.
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 All right, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. And again, thank you so much to Kayla for hosting this excellent conversation. And while we're speaking of it, Kayla is about to head out on the Silk Road mountain bike race. So be sure to follow her out there in Kyrgyzstan. That's freaking awesome, Kayla. And also, Abi, Jenny, Leila, thank you so much for coming on today's episode. Y'all are freaking awesome. I really enjoyed listening to this episode, and I can't wait to follow along and see what y'all do next. All right. Well, if you made it this far, I'll give you one little Easter egg about West Texas Showdown. I just, as of today, have officially submitted the permit application to the state of Texas. It's been a long and bumpy and windy road to get to this point. They don't make it easy, but that's okay. I knew it wouldn't be easy to get a race approved out in this region of the world. Many have tried, many have failed, many have come and gone. It is not an easy thing to do logistically or for any of the reasons. So very excited that we're going to be able to host West Texas Showdown this year. The dates that we have locked down are November 22nd through the 24th. And if you'll notice, that is a Saturday through a Monday, which is a little bit different. But the state park is going to be having a public hunt on Friday, the 21st. And obviously we cannot be riding our bikes. It's not open to the public whenever they're doing public hunts. And it's especially not open to us riding our bikes through there with bullets whizzing through the air. So for that reason, we're bumping it back a day, makes it a little bit more interesting. And again, those dates are November 22nd through the 24th. Hoping to open registration very soon and releasing a lot more information. Yeah, thanks for sticking with me with that and being patient, kinda. Y'all been blowing me up. That's okay. I get it. And I'm excited that y'all are excited. But we're going to make this thing happen. Stay tuned. We're going to be rolling out more information. Until next time, thank you so much for being here. It is always a pleasure. Now, you know what to do. Go ride your damn bike.
It was the middle of the night. You grabbed your knife and you held it tight. The sounds of beasts kept you awake. The sounds they made kept you afraid. In the morning, you packed your bike. Memories forgotten from the previous night. You rode faster than ever before. Was it your imagination or merely folklore? Fear turned into strength as you pushed further. Every pedal stroke, stronger and firmer. Your bike feels weightless, your legs aren't tired. You think to yourself, just a few more miles. Bikes. Oh, death. Bikes.